And now we're going to move to Jackie Smith at Mill Creek Elementary School, Engineering Design Process.
I want to start out by thanking everyone at STEDTRAIN for providing us with the funding to make the activities that we've done this year possible. As everyone else has mentioned, we just do not have the money within our budget at school to be able to afford to buy these types of items for our kids, so it's been a real lifesaver. A few of you know that I fell and had an accident at school back last year, so I've actually worked from home the entire year and done everything virtually with our virtual academy students. So being able to have items that I can share out with them has really changed the way that looks as far as the learning process for our students. If you want to go ahead and go to the next slide, please. Okay, so the way that we measure the success of our project, we always do a pre and a post test to kind of find out what the kids know and then check at the end of the year to see what they're able to do after going through the whole project. One thing with Mill Creek, our third and fourth graders always kind of see us outside doing things with the project, so they have a little bit of an idea about what the drones look like, what the weather balloon launch looks like. So they come in with kind of an expectation. Unfortunately, this year, as with everybody else, COVID was kind of the enemy. The project didn't turn out at all like I pictured in my mind it was gonna turn out. With working from home and doing everything virtually, we just didn't have that small group and face-to-face contact like we've always done in years past. What we ended up doing was letting the kids check out a drone or check out a bolt, and then we would work in groups via WebEx and kind of get that face-to-face, but over the computer. So kids just checked items out and returned them because we had that same situation to where they couldn't share items until they were turned back in, and I'd had a chance to thoroughly sanitize them. One of the other problems that we ran into with COVID, of course, caused a lot of backlogs on things being able to be delivered. So we ended up having to go with a couple of different vendors on some of the items that we wanted to order, simply because we just unable to get them from the original company. We should be able to continue using the items from this grant for many years to come. Out of everything that we've checked out and hope to get checked back in, I've had 3 items that were not returned to the school, and I'm still working on trying to get those back. It was 2 drones and 1 of the spirit bots. The benefits to my students, even though it wasn't the way I pictured it, they're still very excited about STEM, and a lot of them are thinking about enrolling in STEM classes for 6th grade. They're wanting to apply for the technology teams and the green power teams in middle school. And I'd like to share about one little boy, very introverted young man, rarely speaks, super long hair that he pulls over his face constantly so that he doesn't have to interact with people by pulling his hair down over his face. He actually called me on the phone last week, which was a huge thing for him. Like I say, he doesn't really verbalize his thoughts very well. But he actually called me on the phone and wanted to talk about STEM class for next year and which one did I think would be best for him. And he talked about, being able to have the drone at home and being able to have the spherobot at home. And I think that just ignited in him a passion for doing science. And for him to be able to actually call me and want to discuss STEM with me over the phone, if nothing else, the grant helped that become a reality for him. And that just meant the world to me because this young man is in such a dark place. His parents are in the process of a divorce, and he's just internalized everything. And I feel like these pieces of science that he was able to get his hands on, it's made a world of difference for him. Unfortunately, with COVID, we weren't able to do any professional development activity. Like I say, COVID has just caused this project to look totally different from what I had planned for it to look like. If you want to go ahead to the next slide, please. Pictures were very few and far between, and you can't really see the excitement on the kids' faces because of the mask. Again, our drone project has turned out to be the most popular thing in the history of Mill Creek, anything that we've ever done. I was able to get a couple of the kids as they returned their drones. I went ahead and asked parents if they could come in just long enough for me to take a picture with them. Our Green Tower car team, unfortunately, our school decided with administration that we would not be competing this year. So our focus was on working on problems that we had with the car from last year. One of our students actually wrecked the car last year. So we went in and we had some repair work that we had to do. So that was the majority of the focus of the Green Tower team. But the kids did learn a lot by being able to assemble their own dragster, and that was a huge thing. We ended up having between 40 and 50 kids in Virtual Academy throughout the year. So that was another thing that the kids really enjoyed doing, was making their own dragster. And unfortunately, I didn't have enough of the tools that they needed to do a lot of the shaping on it. So they had to improvise from home on those things. So there again, it just looked a little different than what I intended. But the few kids who were able to come in and work on the car, they were allowed to come in 2 at a time. They had to keep their mask on, and we had to wipe everything down. So, COVID just made everything look different this year. But the kids still really enjoyed that. So if you want to go ahead to the next slide, please. And as I said, the way that we assessed how successful the project was with the pre and the post test. And to me, that's the way to collect the data for the success of the project. But as I said earlier, with all those kids being so interested in taking more STEM classes and joining these middle school clubs, to me, that's really the way I gauge the success of it. Were the kids excited about it? Did they develop a new passion for science and STEM? And to me, that was definitely the case. And unfortunately, with COVID, again, we were unable, usually every year we'll lend out some of our items to our sister schools in Madison City. With the COVID protocols, we were just not allowed to do that this year. And then again, with not being face-to-face, the closest thing we could get was what we're doing right here was with a WebEx meeting. It wasn't exactly the same thing. But I ended up working with a lot of kids after our school hours because we had a schedule that we had to follow, with the subject matter. And unfortunately, science got about 20 minutes during class or during the regular school day this year. So I ended up meeting with a lot of the kids after school, and I think that helped a lot as well. Just being able to create that little small group community, even though it was, over WebEx. So that was the end of my project. Thank you, guys.